Rethinking, second edition, chapter 15. We're just starting the medium difficult questions. We're on 15M1. We are, well, here's the question. So, using the mathematical form of the imputation model in the chapter, explain what is being assumed about how the missing values were generated. Okay. Okay. So I'm not sure what model we're meant to be looking at when it says, the imputation model in the chapter, because I believe that there's more than one imputation model in the chapter, right? Because we go through these different mechanisms of missing. I could be wrong about that, but nevertheless, I think that we will just use the model that we generated for 15E2, in which we had to modify a model to allow for multiple imputation of missing values where we had missing values of log population. Okay, and so that's what we're going to do. But before that, let me take a quick timeout and edit this on the fly so that if you're following along, you can see this. But in the previous videos, in the previous video, when I was doing 15E2, I realized that there is a mistake in my model that we need to correct, and that mistake is this guy right here. Okay, so this little subscript on P bar, all right, because this is implying that every single log population has its own, is being drawn from its own distribution, P bar sub I, and that's not correct. That's not what we wanted to do. We wanted all of the missing values to be drawn from a single population, or from a single distribution. So I'm going to fix that here, and maybe I will just kind of keep the camera rolling. Okay, so we want to delete you, and we want to delete you. Okay, yeah, okay, so, all right, so we fixed that. Okay, so now this is the model that we'll look at down here, and I've highlighted in blue, the parts of the imputation model. Okay, so we're going to use this. And so now the question feels maybe just a little oddly worded to me. Okay, so we need to explain what is being assumed about how the missing values were generated. Okay, and again, we're answering it based on this model right here. Again, if we had a different model, may have used or implemented imputation slightly differently, but this is what we're going to do. So, okay, so what is being assumed about how the missing values were generated? Okay, the missing values could refer, I think, either to the values in our data set, like the actual numbers that are representative in our data set, and it may be asking how those were, how the missingness was generated, or it may say, or it may mean, in the real world, the values which happen to be missing from our data set, how are those generated? And I believe it is the latter that, I'm not really sure. So, but anyway, so we're just gonna push ahead anyway. I think that we can, at least have a decent understanding of something here. Okay, so so if we're talking about the math, okay, well, the way that the math is generating the values for the values that happen to be missing, it's just spelled out in the math here, right? It just says that values of log p are being generated from a normal distribution with mean p bar and standard deviation sigma sub p. Okay. Now, if we're going to cast a broader net and talk about the values in the real world, but which happen to be missing from our data set, okay, then what this is implying, or the assumptions that this is implying here, is that the missing values for log p are basically the same as, well, I shouldn't say the same, but they're being drawn from the same distribution as uh, as um, as the values that we observed, right? The values in the real world which happen to have been observed. Okay, um, so in other words, um, the uh, the missing values, there's nothing special about them. They went missing at random, completely at random. Okay, and in fact, we have a missing data mechanism for this, which is called MCAR, missing completely at random. So I think that what this model here implies about the real world values that happen to be missing was that one, they were that they are drawn from the same distribution as the observed values, and two, that their missingness happened completely at random.